Welcome to the deep dive from the All Sorts podcast. Okay, prepare to have your mind maybe a little bit blown because we're starting with something wild. Even back in 1963, way before most people had computers at home, some filmmakers were actually experimenting with using these massive early machines to make movies.
Yeah, seriously. There's even an exhibit at the Computer History Museum called Early Computer Films, 1963, 1972. That's kind of our jumping off point today.
It's incredible.
What's really amazing isn't just that they did it, but the sheer inventiveness behind it. You had traditional animation, which was all hands-on, frame by frame.
Right.
And at the same time, these pioneers were already seeing a glimpse of a digital future for film. It's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And that kind of bold spirit is what's driving our deep dive today. We're getting into the really fascinating history and, the techniques behind film effects. We'll go from those early mechanical tricks all the way to modern CGI. How filmmakers kept pushing the limits, often in ways that just make you go, wait, really?
Mm-hmm. And to map all this out, we've pulled together some interesting sources. We looked at traditional animation tools, physical stuff, then those really early computer film experiments in the 60s. We even dug into how a film projector actually works mechanically.
Okay.
Plus some historical accounts of early movies and descriptions of both mechanical and optical effects. So a real mix.
So for you listening, the Learn RR mission is pretty straightforward. Give you a solid but concise understanding of how film effects evolved. We want to hit those key moments, those kind of aha insights into the cleverness behind the magic without getting bogged down in super technical stuff. Okay, let's dive in, starting right at the beginning with traditional animation. That was all manual, right? Pure handcraft.
Oh, completely. Before digital, animation was incredibly labor-intensive. It really depended on the animator's skill and a whole set of specific tools.
Right. And we've got a rundown of some key ones. Let's start with the animation table. That wasn't just any old desk, was it?
Not at all, no. It was specially designed. Often had a built-in light source under a rotating disc. That light from underneath was crucial. It let animators see through layers of paper so they could trace and create those smooth, in-between drawings.
Ah, the in-betweens, the drawings that connect the main poses. Got it. And if they needed to work elsewhere, there was a portable version, the Lightbox.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Lightbox was basically a portable animation table. Gave you that backlight anywhere, made tracing those in-betweens much easier.
Okay. And how did they check if the movement actually looked right before filming?
That was the line tester. Essentially, it was a camera setup to quickly film the pencil drawings in sequence. Let them review the motion, the timing, kind of like a rough cut for the animation itself.
Makes sense, a preview. And for just practical stuff, like copying drawings or resizing them.
Just a standard photocopier, really.
Mm-hmm.
Used for making duplicates and, for scaling drawings up or down as needed for different shots.
Okay. Now, this feels a bit weird to mention alongside hand-drawn stuff, but computers were involved even then. Just not how we think.
Exactly. It's a fascinating contrast. At this stage, the computer wasn't like drawing the frames. It was mostly used later in post-production for editing the final sequences, putting it all together. So hand-drawn magic, but computer-aided finishing. An early split.
Interesting. And the drawings themselves were on special paper with holes, right? The peg holes.
Yeah, animation paper. And those peg holes, used with a peg bar, were fundamental for registration. Think of them like anchors. They made sure every single drawing lined up perfectly with the one before and after. No jitter.
Ah, crucial for smooth movement. Okay. Then there were dope sheets or X sheets. What were they for? They sound kind of technical.
They were super practical, actually. The dope sheet let the animator plan out the action frame by frame and give really precise instructions to the camera operator. Timing, which character layer was on top, camera moves. It was all on the dope sheet. And get this. Every 8 lines on the sheet equaled exactly half a foot of physical film.
Wow, a direct paper-to-film measurement. That's cool. What about making sure characters look the same all the time?
That's where model sheets came in. Essential reference guides. They had drawings of characters, props, backgrounds, everything from different angles, kept everyone on the same page visually.
So, consistency. Makes sense. And before they even started animating frames, there was storyboarding, then layout and story reels.
Yep. After the storyboard, which is like a comic book version of the script, the layout artist would create a story reel. This meant drawing each scene exactly as it would appear, with detailed backgrounds, character positions, camera fields, a much more technical blueprint than the storyboard.
Okay, much more detailed. And all this stuff, model sheets, dope sheets, layouts, went into a production folder.
Exactly. The production folder kept everything organized, all the key materials for a specific scene or sequence, all in one place.
Got it. And the animators use specific pencils, even different colors.
Yeah, usually 3 main colors.
Right.
Black for the final lines that get inked, red for registration marks, and blue for the rough sketches, because blue lines wouldn't show up when photographed, typically. Plus, pencil sharpeners and art gum erasers were essential kit. It's amazing to think about all that manual work, especially when you compare it to those super early computer film experiments happening around the same time.
It's such a wild contrast, isn't it?
Totally. While Disney folks were hand-drawing every single in-between, over at Bell Labs, you had an engineer, Nestor Burtnick, and a physicist, Marceli Wayne, already writing software to try and automate that exact process.
No way. They saw how Disney did key poses and had assistants fill in the gaps and thought a computer could do the fill-in part.
Pretty much. And this led to what some call the first domain-specific language for movies. BL, FLAX, stands for Bellflix. Apparently, it described images as like mosaics of gray dots, very early pixel stuff.
Digital pointillism, wow. And it wasn't just them, right? Another engineer, A. Michael Knoll, used this in '65 too.
That's right, exploring these new computer animation ideas. And it wasn't just abstract shapes either. Peter Folds made a film in '71 called Metadata. You get this, he drew the keyframes using a mouse. The brand new invention by Douglas Engelbart.
That's incredible, using a mouse to make a film back then. Just imagine. And Stan Vanderbeek used BEFLAX for his poem fields too. But it wasn't easy for the artists.
No. There was a big catch. They couldn't actually see the results until the whole computer process was finished. Vanderbeek famously said it was like learning to draw by pushing a pencil around with your nose. Really sums up how indirect it felt.
Huh. Perfect quote. And John Cage did the music for one of those poem fields. That really shows this early mix of high art and, well, high tech.
Absolutely. The Computer History Museum points out that in just, 7 years, this stuff changed dramatically. And it was clear it would have a huge influence on film, games, art. These first steps, maybe a bit clunky now, they really laid the groundwork.
Seeds for everything visual we have today, really. Okay, so that's how images were created by hand or early computer. But how did still pictures become moving pictures on screen? Let's get into the mechanics of the projector.
All right, this involves some really clever engineering. As one of our sources detailed, film came in different sizes, 70 millimeter, 35 millimeter, 16 millimeter, 8 millimeter. Bigger film, higher resolution generally.
Okay.
But the basic projection idea was similar. Film goes from a supply reel, past a lamp and lens, onto a take-up reel. But if it just moved smoothly...
You'd see a blur, right?
Exactly. The key is intermittent motion. Each frame has to stop, be projected, then move to the next one, really fast.
And that stop-start is done by something called the shuttle.
Yes, the shuttle mechanism. It has these little teeth, usually 3, that fit into the sprocket holes on the film's edge. It moves back, up, forward into the holes, then pulls the film down exactly 1 frame, then repeats. So most of the time, the film is actually perfectly still.
Stationary for projection, then quick advance. But moving the film could cause blur, too.
Correct. That's where the shutter comes in. It's a spinning disc with blades. Its main job is to block the light while the shuttle is pulling the film down. No light hits the screen during the movement.
Okay, blocks the light during the pull down. And you said it often had more than 1 blade. Why?
Yeah, a 3-bladed shutter was very common. Only 1 blade is needed to block light during film advance. The other 2 blades block the light briefly, even when the frame is stationary. Their purpose is to increase the flicker rate.
To make it look smoother to our eyes.
Exactly. Film runs at 24 frames per second. But the 3-bladed shutter flashes each frame 3 times. So you get 72 flickers per second. That's faster than our eyes can detect flicker, so it looks like smooth, continuous motion. It's a brilliant trick, really, exploiting human perception.
Flashing each frame 3 times. That's wild. Okay, there was also mention of a film loop. What did that do?
The loop seems small, but it's crucial. It lets the film do 2 things at once in the projector. It needs intermittent motion at the gate, where it's projected, but it also needs continuous motion for the sound playback further down.
Right, because sound needs constant speed.
Exactly. So the top sprocket pulls film continuously,
Yeah.
creating a little loop of slack before the shuttle mechanism. That slack allows the shuttle to do its jerky stop-start thing without ripping the film. Then there's another loop after the gate, before the sound drum, where a bottom sprocket pulls the film smoothly past the sound reader.
So slack loops allow for both stop-start and smooth motion simultaneously. Ingenious. And all this machinery has to work together perfectly.
Perfectly synchronized. The shuttle, the shutter, the sprockets, often driven by a single mechanism like a worm screw. And it's worth remembering, film cameras work on very similar principles, just kind of in reverse. They were developed hand in hand.
It really is like a little mechanical dance inside the projector.
Amazing. Okay, let's rewind to when people first saw these projected images. late 1800s. What were those reactions like?
Oh, it was mind-blowing for people. Our Mechanical Eye source talks about newspapers in the 1890s buzzing about it. They mentioned Edison's kinetograph first, calling it a marriage of the phonograph with the camera. Pretty prescient. But Edison initially pushed the kinetoscope, right? The peephole box, one viewer at a time.
That's right. It was a personal viewing device. A loop of film, a light, a shutter.
Yeah.
Drop the nickel in. Early arcade stuff.
And not cheap, like 20 cents for maybe 3 minutes across a few machines back then. And Edison didn't want projection.
No, he was worried it would kill the novelty too quickly. Famously said something like, "We'll only need 10 screen machines in the whole U.S. Let's not kill the goose that lays the golden egg."
Huh. Talk about underestimating demand. Because things changed fast with the cinematograph.
Totally. Invented by Leon Bouilly, but really perfected and popularized by the Lumiere brothers in France, their machine was brilliant because it was a camera and a projector. And in December 1895, they held the first commercial public screening. 10 short films. Huge deal.
That was the real start of cinema as we know it. Projection took off, kinetoscopes faded. Even Edison got on board, rebranding another projector as the Vitascope.
Yep. And the effect on audiences was intense. There's that famous story from 1896 about a film of a train pulling into a station.
The one where people ducked.
Yeah. Reportedly so realistic, people scrambled to get out of the way. A couple of women supposedly screamed and fainted. Imagine that impact. It really shows the power of even the simplest moving image back then.
Just incredible. Puts modern CGI in perspective. And it seems like everyone was inventing viewing machines then. That Brooklyn Daily Eagle complaint is funny.
Right. They were joking about being overwhelmed by all the new Sir Crocs and Angraphs. They listed names like Idoloscope, Biograph, Veriscope. Even a Fantagraphoscope captures the frenzy of invention.
Fantagraphoscope, love it. Okay, so from just showing reality, filmmakers started crafting illusions. Let's talk mechanical special effects, the physical on-set stuff.
Right. These are the effects created live, right there during filming. Hydraulics were a big tool for this, according to the MTFX source.
Hydraulics like on diggers and things.
Same basic principle. Powerful rams to push things over like collapsing walls.
That's
Hydraulic
it.
platforms to rotate objects smoothly or shake them violently. The key was hiding the mechanics really well inside the set or props, so it looked real.
So making a chair shake like in an earthquake or a building crumble convincingly.
Exactly. The source mentions an earthquake chair they built, controlled building collapses, even simulating someone crashing through a windscreen, shows the range of movement hydraulics could create.
And it wasn't just big dramatic stuff, also things like snow.
Yep. Mechanical effects covered weather too. From full-on blizzards using big fans and fake snow, down to just a light dusting of frost on a window pane, whatever the scene needed visually.
It's amazing how much practical engineering went into those physical illusions. Now, switching gears to optical effects, things done photographically.
Right. Optical effects were done either in camera or more often later in post-production using a very specialized machine called an optical printer.
Okay, and what kind of effects are we talking about here?
A lot of the classics. Fades in and out, dissolves between scenes, slow motion, fast motion, and really crucial matte work. That's how they combined different filmed elements into one shot. You could layer dozens of elements together for complex sequences using an optical printer.
So this optical printer was key pre-digital. What was it exactly?
Basically, a very precise setup that linked one or more film projectors to a movie camera. It let you rephotograph existing film strips onto new film stock with incredible control. Projector heads held the original film, lenses projected it, and a camera recorded the result.
So like filming a projection, but super controlled.
Kinda, yeah, but with way more precision over exposure, focus, alignment. It was essential for visual effects, making copies, and even film restoration.
But being an analog process, it must have had downsides, like making copies of copies.
Absolutely. Every time you reprinted the film, the image quality degraded a bit. Grain could become more obvious, imperfections magnified, and matching the color exactly between the original footage and the optically printed section was always a challenge. Sometimes you can spot the difference if you look closely.
Right. And combining elements like in matte shots, any issues there?
Yeah. Alignment was tough. Even tiny errors could create visible matte lines where the different pieces joined. To help with this, shots planned for heavy optical work were often filmed using larger formats like VistaVision. The bigger negative size made grain less apparent and slight misalignments less noticeable.
Sounds like a real craft. You also mentioned film restoration. How did optical printers help save old movies?
They were vital. Old films often get scratched or damaged, usually on the clear base side, not the emulsion side with the image.
And those scratches show up when you copy the film.
Exactly. The scratch bends the light passing through so it gets printed onto the copy as a bright or dark line. Optical printing had tricks to fix this. Well, one simple way was just to enlarge the undamaged part of the frame, if the scratches were only near the edge. A more clever method was wet gate printing. They'd put a special liquid in the film gate, where the film is held. The liquid had the same refractive index as the film base. It would fill in the scratches temporarily, so light passed straight through without bending, meaning the scratches wouldn't get copied. Didn't work for deep scratches into the emulsion, though.
Clever, like filling potholes, any other methods.
Yeah, using a diffusion filter between the light and the film. It scattered the light slightly, making small scratches less sharp and obvious on the copy. Less effective than wet gate for big scratches, but sometimes used.
So a whole toolkit of photochemical tricks, but now mostly replaced by digital.
Largely, yes. Since the 90s, CGI, computer-generated imagery, has really taken over. It gives filmmakers much more control, it's often safer than physical stunts, and can be cheaper now, too. So yeah, many optical and mechanical techniques are now done digitally instead.
It really has been quite the journey we've traced. From that painstaking hand-drawn animation and those first clunky computer experiments, through the clever mechanics of projectors and on-set rigs, to the photographic magic of optical printing, it seems filmmakers have always just found ways to amaze us, haven't they?
Absolutely. And what stands out is the sheer ingenuity, the persistence, especially with the limited tech they had back then. It's that mix of art and hardcore problem solving. You picture animators drawing every frame, or those Bell Labs guys wrestling with basic graphics, or the optical printer techs layering film. It's incredible effort.
Definitely gives you a new appreciation when watching older films.
For sure. And maybe next time you watch any movie, you can think about that invisible work, the creative thinking behind even effects that look seamless. It makes you wonder, too, how has digital changed storytelling? What have we gained? Maybe what have we lost? Moving from tangible tricks to virtual ones. Something to ponder.
The magic woven on the silver screen, the illusions that dance and breathe life into stories these wonders, are echoes in the vast library of human creativity. If you've been captivated by this journey through the history of film effects here on the All Sorts podcast, just imagine the other realms of knowledge and insight waiting to be discovered in our archives. Like a perfectly timed explosion or a breathtaking digital vista, help the All Sorts podcast reach new audiences. Illuminate the screens of fellow curious minds by liking, sharing this deep dive, and subscribing to the All Sorts podcast on YouTube. Let's build a community that celebrates the art of understanding. Don't let the credits roll here. Explore our back catalog of deep dives, each one a portal to a new world of ideas. Follow All Sorts Podcasts on X, Instagram, and Threads for behind-the-scenes glimpses and further explorations. Your engagement fuels our quest for knowledge. Join us.